Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Planning for Your Child's University Education, What You Must Do Now. My name is Teniola Kolawole, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. I work with the origination and client experience team here at Zenith Assets, and I'm excited to be hosting today's webinar. Now, this webinar is a panel discussion, so we'll have panelists, and I would ask them questions on our subject matter today, which is educational planning, and would entertain live questions as well. So during this webinar, if you have any questions for us, please feel free to put those questions in the Q&A box. And during the Q&A session, we'll definitely attend to it. For any reason, maybe because of time, we'll not be able to attend to those questions, please be rest assured that we'll send the answers to those questions to your registered email. Without further ado, let me introduce our panelists for today. So my first panelist for today, although she's off-site, is Mrs. Iyabode Attah. So Mrs. Iyabode Attah is the educational advisor at Tabitha-Knowels Integrated Services and a co-owner of Wura Farms and Jiba Farms. Iyabode is a trained chemical engineer holding a MSc degree in chemical engineering from the University of Lagos. She has about 2 decades of experience in the oil and gas, upstream and downstream industries. Iyabode is very passionate about working with the younger generation to advance their career growth. She has placed a lot of young people from Nigeria, China, Canada, the UK, and the US into top schools in the US and in Canada at very good value. She's a local supporter of an MIT alumni initiative, Impact Labs, a non-profit organization based in Nigeria that teaches STEM to high school and early university students. Iyabode is a member of the Board of Trustees of iScholar Initiative, an organization that is dedicated to improving economic outcomes for African students via access to merit-based and fully funded world-class graduate studies in foreign universities. Please let's make welcome Mrs. Iyabode Attah. Also with me here, I have my colleague, Mr. Adetumi Atayero. Mr. Adetumi Atayero is our head of the research team here at Zenith. He also holds a first degree in economics from the prestigious Covenant University, and he is a level 3 candidate of the CFA program. He has over 12 years experience in the financial services sector, covering equity and fixed income investments, research and analysis, portfolio management, core banking, and treasury operations. Please let's make welcome Mr. Adetumi Atayero.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. So let's just go straight to, before we go straight to our panel discussion, with the educational costs rising, planning for the ballooning cost of university is getting ever more vital. Hence the importance of today's topic, planning for your child's university education, what you must know now. I work in the origination unit, and I've had a lot of clients talk to me about making inquiries about opening investment accounts for their children. Okay. With educational costs rising, planning for the ballooning cost of university is getting ever more vital. Hence the relevance of today's discussion, planning for your child's university education, what you must do now. Like I said, I work with the client origination team here, and I've had a lot of clients make inquiries about opening investment accounts for their minors. A majority of them do that because they're planning, they have in mind that it's important for them to plan for their children's university education. So we are aware that we're not here to tell you about the importance of planning for your children's university education, because we know that is something that is important, and we all know that it's important. No matter the level that you are in, whether you're a single or you're a married couple, or you're a married couple, or you're a married couple with young children, both in primary or secondary school, this topic is still very, very relevant. Hence, our discussion today won't be about the importance, but about strategies that you need to know when planning for your children's university education. Also giving you a deep insight as to some of the information you already have. Now, without wasting any more time, let's just dive straight into the panel discussions I have. I have with me, the panel questions I have with me. Okay, so my first question is actually for Mr. Adetumi. Okay, so Mr. Adetumi is going to be giving us the investment side of things, just opening our minds as to some of the things we need to put in place when it comes to investment in planning for your children's university education. Mr. Adetumi, what strategies do you think parents can put in place to adequately plan for their children's tertiary education?
Thank you, Tenny. Before I answer that question, I'd like to just highlight something you mentioned in terms of the timeliness and relevance of this topic. Um, Personally, to my mind, I think the most important and enduring legacy that parents can give to their children is the gift of quality education. And like you rightly said, a lot of parents seem to be aware of this. And the truth is, beyond houses and cars and other material wealth, when you want to guarantee the sustainability of intergenerational wealth, you are looking at giving your children the quality education that you can afford. So that's why this is a really important. This is a really important topic. And like you also rightly mentioned, a lot of parents seem to be aware, but that seems to be where it ends. And beyond the awareness, they just give a mental assent to, okay, children's school fees are going to be coming due in the future, but they do not really sit down to count the cost and take certain measures to really plan for this education, which is why this topic is really relevant and very timely. And now to answer your question, basically I think there are three just strategies that parents can consider when planning for their children's education. So I'll go ahead and list the three strategies, and then in a bit more detail, I will dive deeper into those strategies. So the first one is to set up an education investment plan. The second strategy is to get what you call an education protection plan, or otherwise known as education insurance. And the third strategy is to get an education trust plan in place. Before I go ahead to delve deeper into these three strategies, I should mention that they are by no means mutually exclusive strategies, in the sense that you can combine them. You can combine two or three, they can complement each other. You don't have to really stick to one. And when I describe the features of these strategies, you would appreciate why that is so. So the first one I mentioned is setting up an education investment plan. I mean, you could think that, seeing as important as education is, and the appreciation by parents of how vital it is to give your children very good education, you think it goes without saying that parents should have a plan in place. However, that seems not to be the case. We have a lot of parents just, because when you think about it, we're talking about education planning, and in some cases, it's just a newly married couple or it's a single person. So it's, all those years into the future. So you're really thinking, do I need to start worrying about 10 years, 20 years, 15 years from now, or should I just worry about more immediate concerns? So that's the trick. We could be lulled into thinking it's not a pressing and urgent need, and then we do not take the requisite time and dedication it requires to really make the necessary plans. So what's an education investment plan? It's simple. It's basically just setting aside a set sum of money periodically. It could be every day, every week, every month, quarterly or yearly, whichever works for you. And dedicating that set fund to investing towards the education of your children. So basically, that's what an education investment plan is. It's a plan of action towards a set goal, and the goal in this case is giving your children as good quality education as you can afford. So okay, let's try to make this as practical as possible. Let's say there's a fictional couple, Mr. and Mrs. Iyabode Attah. Let's say they have two children, ages 4 and 2, Tumi and Tenny. And so, Tumi is 4, Tenny is 2. So assuming the average university entry age is 16 years. So Tumi still has about 12 years to get to the university, while Tenny has 14 years. And so you are thinking, which is the wiser course of action for the Ajayi to start making plans towards that education right now, 12 years, 14 years before time, or they should wait closer to when these kids enter university before they start making payments? Obviously, the wiser course of action would be to start investing now, start today, because the importance of that is, like she mentioned also in our opening statements, education costs are rising, they are ballooning. So you don't want to wait till then, because you don't know how much this thing is going to cost. Then you can only have a sense of what it costs now, but not what it's going to cost them. So the earlier you start planning towards it, and the longer you're able to invest towards that goal, the better, the safer it is that you can reliably meet that goal. Just to highlight some benefits of setting up an education investment plan immediately. And I mean, I might seem to be putting some emphasis on immediately and starting now. Like, what's the urgency? This is a decade plus into the future. Why should we start now? But like I said, these costs keep going up. There's no saying what these costs are going to be then. So it's better to be on the safe side, to start making plans and preparations toward it immediately. Okay, now, so the number one benefit of setting up an education investment plan is that it can easily customize it and make it tailored to your current financial circumstances and what you're currently earning, for example. And then beyond what you're earning, like with the case of Mr. and Mrs. Iyabode Attah, let's say the household income for both parents right now is maybe 500,000 naira. That's the household income that they have combined, both of them, assuming they're both working. So the question is, how much can they comfortably, reliably save or invest towards their children's education? So that's going to be different from another family. Let's say maybe the Odogus, for example, that the household income in a year is in a month is 2.5 million naira. So I mean, that's everyone is at a particular point in their life's journey at a particular stage. So the Ajais now, they're earning 5,000 naira household monthly income, and that's where they are right now. But the flexibility with which you can set up an education investment plan is such that when their financial fortunes improve, I mean, 12 years, 14 years is still far into the future. Promotions will come. I don't know, maybe they're lucky, they win lottery, or some other windfalls come their way. You can be able to allocate more of those extra funds, extra income into their education investment plan for their children. So that's one major benefit. Another one is that starting now and starting early, using an education investment plan helps you to minimize what is called shortfall risk. So what is shortfall risk? Basically, it's the risk that when it's 12 years time and Sumi has to go to school, for example, you do not have enough funds in your investment fund to cater for that education. So that helps to minimize it. If you save for longer and you start now, and when you consider the power of compound interest and compounding, that fund is going to grow. I mean, 12 years, 10 years, it's going to grow at a pretty rapid rate, and then it's going to help you minimize that shortfall risk. And lastly, but also very important, another reason why it's good to start an education investment plan for your children is that it helps you to instill the discipline and structure, as in right now, to plan towards that education. So, I mean, every month you have made up your mind. Okay, let's say the Ajais, for example, want to send their children to the best private university in Nigeria in 12 years and 14 years time. And so that's what they've decided as a couple to do for their children. That's the legacy they want to give their children. So the question now is, you know to start now, but then you have to be deliberate. That's what a plan does, basically. It helps to be deliberate in planning towards your set goal. So that is another benefit. It makes you commit necessary resources now and going forward into making that aspiration of yours to give your children a good education, making it possible. So that's it on education investment plan. Those are the major benefits, and I'll say again, the earlier you start, the better. Basically, it's advisable you start now. Another strategy, the second strategy that you can look at is education insurance or education protection plan. Basically, what does that mean? It's just a plan to guarantee that in case of eventualities in the future, maybe something happens to your earning power, or maybe an unforeseen or unplanned event happens that makes it impossible for you to be able to make payments for your school fees of your children in the future. In this case, their university education. So it's an insurance policy to make sure that whatever happens in the future, your children's education is going to be well taken care of. So basically, that's what education insurance is. Okay, like, I mean, using the Mr. Jari's scenario, the children are not going to school in another 12 to 14 years. That's a long time. I mean, a lot can happen in 12 to 14 years. You would agree with me. And if you don't agree with me, just look at 2020 that we are in right now. I mean, when we started this year, a lot of projections, but I mean, who would have thought a tiny virus from Wuhan in China is going to really bring the whole world to a halt? So there's so much uncertainty in the future, but we try to plan as much as we can. And that's why an insurance policy is very, very, very important. So I just give you the basic features of, I mean, it depends. It's usually a product sold by life insurance companies, and there will be some minor differences depending on which insurance company you are buying from. But the basic attribute is that there's an assured sum, there's a maturity, there's a term that you're looking to invest for. So let's say 12 years for Tumi now, and then you have calculated based on current school fees and projections that when he goes to school, it will be about maybe 8.5 million for his education. So what you want to do is, so the insurance company is going to calculate the premium that should go along with such an assured sum, and then the term to maturity of how long that policy is going to run. And based on that and some other factors, they come up with the premium they're going to be paying towards that insurance. So that's basically how that works. So you're making payments, maybe monthly, quarterly, or yearly. You're making premium payments towards that, such that along the line, if anything happens, you're guaranteed that the education of your children is not going to stop. I mean, this is life. Life happens. As much as you are very sensitive on that topic of maybe premature death, but I mean, these things happen. We see it every day. So it's better to be realistic and take a proactive approach towards it, and just put it there. It's a backup anyway, just insurance in case something happens. So that should be there. And the advantages of insurance, of having education insurance or education protection plan, is quite obvious. Like I said, it gives you rest of mind. You are sure that whatever happens, accident, permanent or temporary disability, whatever the eventuality is, your children's education, especially university education, is not going to stop. So that's why that is very, very important. Another thing is, depending on how it is structured, education insurance can actually, there are some tax benefits that actually accrue to running such a program. So that's the second strategy. And like I said earlier, they're not mutually exclusive. I mean, you could have the investment plan running on one hand, and on the other hand, just have an insurance policy in case anything happens, such that maybe eventually or along the line you are not able to keep up with that investment plan, then you can fall back on the insurance. So that's the second strategy. The third one is setting up education trust. I'll try to make it as practical as possible so we don't get bogged down in too much technicalities. So what's a trust? What's an education trust? Okay, let's use the Ajayi's now. So let's say they have a property in Mowe that they've acquired, or maybe they have a 3-bedroom bungalow in Bagada. So they have that asset already, and they've just decided that between now and 12 years or 14 years time, the value of that asset would have appreciated such that it will be enough to adequately cater for the university education of their children. So what do? They approach a trustee, which is a third party, and then they transfer the rights to that property. It doesn't have to be property, it could be funds, it could be investments, whatever assets. They transfer the rights to the assets to the trustee to manage on behalf of their children, to me and Tenny, such that based on the trust deed and how it is set up, in 12 years and 14 years, and when these children have to go to school, that money is going to be used solely for the education for their university education. So that's another strategy that I can put in place. And I mean, a major benefit of having a trust for children's education is that it ring fences that particular asset such that there can be no interference. It cannot be used. You can't use it to settle claims. You can't use it. Creditors cannot come for it. It's sacrosanct that it is going to be used only for the education of Tumi and Tenny in this particular scenario. So that is the third strategy. And so you can, you can mix and match, however, based on your financial circumstances and whatever works for you. So you can have an investment plan in place. You can have a trustee to ring-fence your assets, and then you can have an insurance to overlay the whole process, such that whatever happens, you can always be assured that the university education of your children is going to be guaranteed. So those are the strategies that are well.
Thank you so much to me. Thank you so much. That was quite insightful. It was just one question, but man, you killed it. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so if we're picking anything from the first question answered by Tumi, first thing is the importance of an investment plan. He mentioned that. He also mentioned the importance of a protection plan, which is insurance, just in case we never pray for evil, we never pray for untimely death, but this is life and this happens. Like he clearly said, If anybody had told us sometime last year that there was going to be a virus that's going to affect the entire world, we would have disagreed. Okay, my next question is also for you. So you've talked about, okay, that it's important to have an investment plan. It's important to have an investment plan. It's important to have an insurance and all of that. My next question is, what are the various investment products or vehicles that are currently available?
Thank you for that question. I mean, it's a very valid question, which piggybacks on the very first strategy I gave, which is start an investment plan. So, I mean, okay, after this webinar, you are excited, you really want to take action and then start investing. So now the question is, how do you go about it? What are the available vehicles and investment products that you can use? Okay, try not to make it too technical, but I just list the different asset classes that we can consider. So you can, we have real estate. A lot of people are familiar with this. So you can have real estate. That's one. You can have equities. That's basically investing in publicly or private equity for companies. That's another avenue. Then also you can invest in fixed income securities. What are fixed income securities? We're talking about treasury bills. We're talking about bonds from corporates and government entities. Just a quick aside here. Then just a few years back, you could earn 15, 18, 20% on treasury bills. I mean, those are the good old days. I mean, it was almost free money because you are basically getting 20%, 18% on risk-free investment. These are government securities. They're called default-free because, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? The government, it's backed by the faith and credit of the government, and we're getting 20% on those return on those securities. But now those days are far gone. Now the yield, the average yield on treasury bills right now, the last top rate, it was 1.2% or thereabouts for 91-day treasury investment. So that's things are changing. So right now, people are becoming more financially aware. I mean, it was easy to just put your money in treasury bills and say, just keep it there. Once it matures, roll over. But now, do you want to roll over your investment at 3.4%? I mean, is that the best you can get? So these are the questions that come to mind when you're trying to address this issue of investment vehicles. So, okay, like I said, there's real estate, there's equities, there's fixed income securities, and considering what we're talking about here, which is long-term education planning, using the same scenario I've been using. So now, the Ajayi, how do they go about maybe buying equities, for example? I mean, there are a lot of factors that you have to consider before you give investment advice, which is what I'm not going to do here. I'm just going to highlight the different asset classes, and then, but a better way, especially for people that are not really financially literate or do not know much about investment, is to maybe consider what is called collective investment schemes. So what are these? I mean, these are your mutual funds, and basically it's you outsourcing that responsibility to an asset manager or an investment professional that are very, very knowledgeable. I mean, that's what they do for a living anyway. So they manage your funds, and it's a collective pool of funds from the Ajayis, the Odogus, and every other person. So they collect these funds together and then they manage it to a particular mandate. So, for example, you have equity mutual funds, you have mutual funds for fixed income securities. I mean, I think most of our clients, they're actually more interested in the fixed income fund because of most of the securities in that fund are long dated, longer maturity instruments. So I'm looking at our case study of the Ajayis right now. So you're looking at 10 years, 12 years down the line. So what can I invest in? So you have 10-year federal government FGN bonds. You have 10 years, some corporates have issued as long as 7 years and 10-year bonds as well. So that's what that fixed income fund invests in. So it tries to match your obligation, the duration of your obligation with the investment products. That's one. Another one is you could buy real estate, and then usually it appreciates. So in another 10, 12 years, your land in Mowe is probably worth double or triple of what it is you paid for it today. So that's another way for you to invest with that in mind. Or you can buy shares of companies, and as you get dividends, you reinvest them, and then. But the caveat is that it's best to approach a financial expert, especially if you are new to these things. So that way they're able to advise you on the best course of action, looking at your current financial circumstances and your risk tolerance, and then so they can match all that together and decide on the best course of action for you. So basically, that's how that works. There are different. There are equity funds, there are fixed income funds, there are money market funds, there are ethical funds. Even if you have a particular conviction that you don't want to invest in certain types of companies for the long term. So these are all different vehicles that are available that you can leverage on to make plans towards your children's education. I'll just stop there. I mean, if I should go, I don't want to get too technical so I don't lose some of our of the viewers, but that's basically what it is. Just identify if you're not very knowledgeable in this matters, get the financial experts to really break it down to you and then help you structure a plan that you can work with.
Okay, thank you so much to me. So from the conversation to me had with us, to me has said the importance of having vehicles like real estate, vehicles like collective investment plans, mutual funds, fixed income instruments, equities. So the major take home here is, especially if you are new into this investment world, it's very important for you to get a financial advisor, because with a financial advisor you would really not go wrong. But if you decide to do it by yourself, you have to be very knowledgeable and be very, very careful. But yeah, thank you so much to me. Thank you so much for giving us an insight as to the different investment vehicles we can actually plug into, especially because this plan we are planning for is not a 1 year plan, it's a 15, 14, 10 years plan from now. So down the line rather. So it's important for us to at least know, okay, what long-term investment vehicles do I have that in 10 years time, in 15 years time, all things being equal, it will still be able to pay this children's university education. Thank you so much to me. Okay, my next question would be, can you give us an idea of what private and public schools in Nigeria currently charge as tuition fees, and what impact does inflation have on these fees? So we are talking about educational planning, university educational planning. So it's important for us to even know, yes, we are in Nigeria. What is tuition like in private, in public schools? And with inflation, how do we also think about all of that?
Okay, that's a very, very relevant question, especially in a high inflation environment like Nigeria. Okay, I'll use my own personal example here. I was privileged to be a member of the pioneer sector of Covenant University. That was in 2002. My very first tuition there was 170,000. I mean, it was a lot of money then. I studied economics, like you mentioned in your introduction of my profile. That was 18 years ago. I paid 170,000. And even while I was in Covenant University then, the school fee I think was adjusted maybe twice or thrice within my four-year stay in the university. Now, 2019-2020 session, it cost 937,500 for economics. I don't know, maybe. Yes, the same institution, the same cost, but now it costs. I mean, if you do the calculation, that's about 41% increase. I mean, it's 18 years to be fair. It's a long time, but then that's a staggering rate of increase from 170,000 to 97,500. I mean, to put things in perspective, my entire stay in Covenant University cost me less than it takes for 100 level now. I mean, this is not peculiar to Covenant University. This cuts across geography, cuts across institutions, public and private. So I did a sampling. I went online to check average what universities are taking right now for private universities especially, and it comes to an average of maybe 900,000 for economics, about maybe it's obviously close to 2 million for medicine, over $1 million for law, and I mean, just like that, it's a whole new world in terms of school fees. And I mean, these adjustments have to be made because, I mean, like I said, we live in an inflationary environment, and then they have to try to keep up one way or the other. So that's the effect of inflation basically on school fees. I mean, we can only now let's go back to the Ajayi's that we're using as our case study. We can only say what school fees are now. I mean, if you had asked me in 2002 when I entered Covenant University, what would school fees be in 18 years' time? There is no way I would have given you up to $1 million as the figure that will come to my mind. But that's the reality. So that's how much education services increase in terms of inflation. And so we can only say now, okay, so now to enter Covenant University to study economics is 97,500. But what is it going to be in 12 years' time? Let's say Tumi wants to study economics in Covenant University. We can't really say, but then you can just, using the previous 10 years, because there are statistics gathered by Nigerian Statistics, which shows that in terms of education services, the rate of increase in price has actually averaged about 10% over the last 10 years based on data by NBS. So you can extrapolate based on that and then try to project that into the future. Or, but like I said, nobody really knows what is going to be in the future. You can only speak about what we know now. So you have to factor in inflation into your calculation, which is why, again, it's very important to start now. Because you might think, okay, I'm saving a lot of money. But then by the time you factor in inflation, the real value of the money you're saving, I mean, there's the nominal value, which is the exact naira and kobo, but the real value in terms of what your money can get. I mean, what can 7,000 naira get in today's naira compared to 18 years ago? So that's the impact inflation plays. I mean, you can't overemphasize or you can't state it too much that inflation is a major consideration when planning in the long term for any long-term endeavor, especially in a high inflationary environment like Nigeria. I mean, to even bring it closer home, right now, headline inflation is about 12.82%. Food inflation is about 15.4% thereabouts. I mean, that is a lot of money. And then when you now see all the statistics flying about maybe Nigerians spending maybe 60% of their income on food. So that leaves maybe about 40% left as discretionary income, which is what you're going to save and invest from. So I mean, it could be challenging actually, as in trying to make ends meet. But then you have decided that giving your children education, quality education, is very important to you. So you have to take the pain and then start now. And then with the hope that, I mean, with compound interest and then with the duration of how long you are investing, you are going to be able to have enough when it's time for these children to go to school, that you will not be lacking then. And for the public universities, I mean, the federal government universities, which I checked them, Unizi, Nsukka, University of Nigeria, University of Nsukka, I checked them, University of Ibadan, and University of Lagos. I mean, it's about maybe 60 to 70,000 on average. And I'm sure, I mean, people that went to school 18 years ago, 20 years ago will tell you that the pipe didn't pay up to 10,000 for their whole stay in the university. So, I mean, things are changing, and it's going to keep happening. I mean, that's just the reality. Inflation it's a phenomenon that we have to live with. So when you are making projections and making plans, you have to factor inflation in because it plays a really, really vital role.
Well, thank you to me. Thank you so much for that. So, if we're picking one thing from what he said, inflation, you need to factor in inflation because we're in the environment we are in, it's very important for us to put that into consideration. But then you've spoken to us now about Nigerian schools, about private and public schools here in Nigeria. What about the Ivy League schools, the Harvard, the MITs, as a parent, if you want to take your children to Ivy League schools as well, I did a research and I found out that for Harvard, for instance, the average annual fees is around 70,000 US dollars. And if the minimum years your child is going to spend is 4 years, we're looking at 280,000 US dollars. Now, if I'm bringing it home and using an exchange rate of 500 naira, we're looking at 140 million naira. That's a lot of money. So, having those statistics out there, how can a parent, and this question is going to be for Mrs. Iyabode Attah, having these statistics about Harvard, the MITs, how can a parent supplement their savings? How can a parent plan? What other things can a parent consider in planning for their children's university education? So I'm a parent, I want to take my children to Ivy League schools. What other things can I do? How can I supplement my savings in doing that? Mrs. Iyabode Attah, this question is for you.
Okay, so in talking about planning for a child's education, I'm going to also talk about some of the things that Tumi had talked about, because it's important as parents to have the big picture, the entire picture. So what's very important, when should somebody start planning? You should start planning as soon as you marry, because that's what I did, my husband and I did. As soon as we married, we decided that we're going to have 2 children. We also decided, well, irrespective of their sex, we also decided that we would like to send them to the best schools available wherever. So immediately we had them, we've opened up college fund. I personally got a financial expert in the US to put me through the setting up of a college fund. So I put together a college fund for my first son. When we had our second son, as my husband was on cross posting, so he opened a college fund for both of them. So, and the reason why we're doing that is that as at that time, I was usually working in the US, and I had insight into what the educational cost is in the US. And then I also realized that annually, the school fees increases by 5% on the average. 5% on the average. So that is also, we put aside the college fund. Then we invested heavily in stocks. We invested in mutual funds in some of the top banks in Nigeria and also in the US. We were also deliberate about our finances. We didn't live as the salaries that we earn because we were intentional because we wanted to give our children the best in terms of education. So that's what we did. So what should other parents do? So there has to be planning around family size, very important. Hello? Oh, baby, you can't see me, Abby. Okay, hello? Okay, so when I talk about family size, in the past, our parents had a lot of children because they needed them to help them in their farm works. In this modern day and age, a child should be more than enough. And parents should plan their lives such that they don't have to rely on their children in their old age. It's very important. The other thing is that as parents, whether you are single parents or you have both parents living together, both of you should be intentional about raising your children. You should be aligned in the things that you do with them. For example, I'm the enforcer, my husband is the cool guy. So we always agree. If we have differences, we resolve our differences in our bedroom without our children getting it. It's very important. The other thing that we did deliberately was to look at the quality of the primary school that we send our children into. We settled for schools that have impacts in their teaching, that are impactful in their teaching methodology, schools that offer extracurricular activities, and schools that play down discipline. That was very important. We also looked at feeder nursery schools into top secondary schools in Nigeria. A school as at that time, Corona was the best primary school in Nigeria. So we looked for a feeder school into Corona, even though, because we were looking to attend schools like Adetumi College, Loyola Jesuit, and some of those top schools in Nigeria, but we know that they'll be able to prepare them into the top schools anywhere in the world. So on the basis of that, so the other thing we also look at is those schools that we consider for secondary school, we look for high schools that have very strong curriculum, especially WAEC. Because we found out that a particular school, as at the time we're shopping for a school for our son, had the highest placement into Harvard. And that was Adetumi College of Art. Just an example, there are other schools in Nigeria. So the other thing I'm going to tell parents is that you don't necessarily have to pay very high fees sending your children to secondary school. There are a lot of schools that run WAEC curriculum and they are inexpensive and they are very disciplined. They have a lot of extracurricular activities. They are disciplined. They are just all around very good schools. It does not have to be expensive to be good. And be mindful, WAEC curriculum is stronger than American high school diploma. So just that parents know. So how do we now manage the top schools in the US? I would like to focus on America. And the reason why I'm doing that is because most of the top schools are actually in America. That's number one. It is only in American schools, most of them offer a lot of scholarships that will allow just about anybody, whether your parents are rich or poor, wherever you are, that you're able to go to top schools for next to nothing. So it's all, and also American education is very robust. You know, it gives you a lot of answer in and outside the classroom. So I'm going to be using America. So I'm going to define certain things. Number one, how do people pay for college in America? Whether you're an American citizen or whether you're an international student, they're usually free money. So it is now up to you how you now go after this free money. Number one, so schools will offer merit-based scholarship. Any school, whether public or private universities, they all have merit-based scholarships. And these scholarships are usually tied to talents, academic ability, music ability, any other artistic ability, leadership, work experiences, just about everything that the child brings forth. And you also can apply for sports scholarship from private companies and organizations also. But there's a caveat about sports scholarship. There are about 7.57 million applicants for sports scholarship, and there are only 138,000 available. So that's a thin line. And it's only schools that are on NCAA Division 1 and 2 that actually offer sports scholarship. Other ones are not allowed to. So it's important that people know. So, and also, there are also scholarships that are offered by private organizations. So the way to get value out of this available external scholarship outside the school that students are applying to is to start off early. When I say as early, as a parent, there is not out of place to start when your child is already in JSS1 or year 7, as we call it. It's never too early. Looking for scholarships that tailor their profile. For example, I'm Iyabode Attah. I'm a black girl, so I look for scholarships for black women. Oh, I'm a minority. I look for scholarship for minority. I'm short. I'm petite. You just Google and search for all these scholarships on the basis of your own profile. Very important. So normally there's a very good website that you can use to check. It's called fastweb.com. Some of these scholarships, they range from $500 to $30,000. Some of them will only be valid for 1 year. Some of them will cover you for the 4 years that you are in university. And these are external scholarships, not the scholarship within the school. So how do students access scholarships that are available in the schools? So we need to first of all define cost of attendance. Cost of attendance is tuition, fees, accommodation and feeding, personal expenses, books, and all that. It's called cost of attendance. So let's use MIT as an example. MIT cost of attendance for students who are in first year now is about $73,000. So I'm going to use MIT to explain 2 categories of ways of making money. So I'll break it down. So cost of attendance for MIT is about $73,000. So if Iyabode Attah, the daughter of plantain seller, is applying to MIT, and then the son of Dangote or Dimovia is applying to MIT. So how does MIT see our financial profile? So we'll fill certain forms. If Iyabode Attah is an American citizen, Iyabode Attah will fill FAFSA. And FAFSA is free application for federal student aid. But if the son of is a Nigerian and applying to MIT, he will fill ISFA, International Student Financial Aid Application. These forms will capture our parents' financial profile. For FAFSA, it will only capture the information of the students that the student lives with. So basically, to capture the income, the equity, the number of students, the number of people that live in the household, and the number of students who are currently in the university. Then for MIT and other private institutions that have institutional scholarship, parents will be required to fill PSS profile. PSS is College Scholarship Services profile. It captures more information. It goes deeper to find out all the investments, the equity, different things that are tied to money that the child's parents, both the father and the mother that they have, because they are trying to get deeper insight so that they are able to meet everybody's need. So when students feel faster or easier, it will capture their financial profile. So it will define how much their parents should contribute towards their education based on their financial history. So that is ESC. So the need will now be cost of attendance minus EFC. So the need is what I would like us to now talk about. For me, Iyabode Attah, my mother, and this is a real life situation, so let me use a real life situation. My first son attended MIT, so my second son. So as at the time my son was attending MIT, I just retired from ExxonMobil. And then my husband was still in a high-end job. In my son's class, there was a boy whose mother was selling akara in Kano. So both of them were admitted by MIT. My son was admitted to MIT. The boy was admitted to MIT. The boy's need was $73,000. That is today now. But my own need was $0. And the reason is that my financial profile says that I can afford MIT. So I paid full. But the boy whose mother was selling akara in Kano pays $0. So that means that the boy, each one of us needs was fully met. So, and that is because schools like MIT, Harvard, Princeton, Ames College, and some other schools are need blind students and American citizens. Some schools, they must fully need blind to American citizens. So parents need to be mindful of that. But there are other schools that will meet the demonstrated financial need of all applicants. But when it's time for admission decisions, they'll be sensitive to the financial profile of that student, and it might be a decision with that student if the student is not able to meet most of his or her need. That kind of school is called need aware. They're aware of the need, but they might not necessarily be able to meet all the needs. So in such a case, they will advise the student to take a loan or have the parents take a loan to meet up the differential in order to be able to meet the total need of the student. So how should parents prepare the students to be able to qualify and meet and be able to be considered or be very attractive to these Ivy League schools? Number one, even as early as you realize it and you have children, even from primary school, it's never early to start being mindful of the profile of your children. Work with your children. Be involved in their academic lives. Encourage them to be involved in extracurricular activities. Teach them to use their hands. The sciences that they are being taught in school, encourage them to do the experiments. Encourage them to do research on their own. Teach them to start reading as early as possible. Make them read every day. The best gifts that any parent can give to a child is a reading skill. That is the best you can give to your children. Encourage them to work. When they work, however, if you have your businesses, let them be involved with your businesses. If you don't have your own businesses, encourage them to go work wherever. This Ivy Leagues, they can meet the needs of just about anybody. They are not, but what they are looking for is that, but they don't believe that your long-term potential for success, it has little or nothing to do with your family present income. And by extension, your family's income should have little to do with whether you can attend college or not. So these colleges, they have substantial sums of money that they have raised over the years. And these funds it allows them to put their beliefs about your potential into action by offering financial assistance beneath it. You understand? So what should parents do? I was talking about what parents should do. Parents should be mindful about their children. Encourage your children to make the best of their lives. How did they do that? Don't be their friends when they are young. Be their parents. They will come around to love you. I raised 2 boys that I bore myself. I was a witch when I was raising them. But now, I'm their best friend. I'm their bestie. And I thank God for that. You understand? One of them runs his own company. He went to MIT. He went to University of Cambridge. And he went to Imperial. He's back to this country. And he's running his own company. And my husband and I do not have one kobo in the company that is running. We don't have a dime. He raised the fund for the company with 3 of his friends from seed fund. Seed fund is also not free. It's like the money that the Ivy Leagues give to you. You understand? Encourage your children to just be the best that they have. You understand? Encourage them to get their hands dirty, be involved in extracurricular activities. If it's music, if it's sport, whatever it is, encourage them to read. Encourage them to love to write. Encourage them to take on leadership positions. Put them out there, but support them from the back. You know, but most importantly, please, any parents that's listening to me today, start working on your children to read. For as long as they read, if they have aptitude for reading aptitude, that will translate into aptitude in their math attitude. It will translate in just about everything. You understand? Allow them to work. Don't do everything for them. Just be at their back. So that when they are leaning back, you can always push them back up. You understand? You know, listen. Children do not need rich parents. What children need is the best of themselves. Children don't need to be look. I can give you examples of young people that I have placed into universities in America, top schools in America, that their parents are a taxi driver, an orphan. I have a girl this year who is going to Columbia University. Columbia University is going to pay for a ticket and travel into the US. And at the same time, I have a boy who is going to Princeton this year. His father is paying full because his father can afford to pay for Princeton. If his father cannot afford Princeton, on the basis of his profile, Princeton will have still admitted him and given him full funding. So I don't like to talk about money, but even if you talk about this money, even if you want to attend the Ivy League, if your parents have the money, if you are intentional, it's not from very age, you can shop around, but it's only going to take you doing a lot of work with your parents and the student and your children, looking for extra scholarships to even pay for your children's school fees. If the Ivy Leagues will not give them the money because you are very rich. You understand? So it's no big deal. It's no brainer. Every year, top Nigerian students, they make it into top universities in America. Even in Canada, let me use Canada also as an example. If you have your children, pay attention to them. Schools like McGill, schools like UBC, that's University of British Columbia, and a couple of other schools in Canada, they have some scholarships, full funding for international students. And your children are Niger children. And Niger children, they are usually very good. You understand? Make sure that you're very intentional about them. Send them to school with very strong curriculum. Sit on their heads. Their necks will not break. You know, be on their cases. Encourage them. Start keeping them. But very importantly, as parents, make sure that you are playing out the right attitude around your children. Because children learn, they watch you. They look at the things that you see. Very importantly, they are watching you. People will say, oh, my children they're not wasteful. They're not wasteful because I'm not wasteful. I'm a core Lagosian. I'm a Lagos girl. I was born and raised in Oyibo. I know where they sell 1 million naira lace, but guess what? I'm not going to buy it. I'd rather use my money for better things. So my children have picked up, your children will pick up values from you. I was 56 on Sunday. I'm still working. I'm doing this work. I do education consulting full time. I work around the clock. Number one, I run 2 farms. I'm growing I'm doing everything, and I still get my pension. Understand? You have to, if you play all the right things around your children, you won't have to do much shopping. They will still be children. They'll play fancy, but you can always call them to order. Me, I'm the enforcer. They call me the enforcer, and I'm happy to be an enforcer. You understand? They will not be your friends. They don't have to be your friends, but they will come around because they will do very well in life.
We're totally enjoying you, ma. Like, this is so insightful. Thank you so much, ma. Please, if you have questions, especially questions for our panelists, Adetumi and Mrs. Iyabode, please start bringing in the questions as well. Thank you so much, ma. Thank you so much, ma. It has been so insightful and very, very educative as well. And I can see the passion about your speaking. It's so passionate. Even the way you were talking, Seth, the rush from your, like, the power it was coming from, it was so insightful. There are some things you mentioned, and I think you should maybe deliberate more on them. You mentioned a particular website. I've had one or two questions, people asking, what website did she just mention? I think because you were talking really, really fast, it was kind of difficult for our audience to pick exactly what you were saying in details. So I don't know if it's possible for you to repeat that website that you mentioned for scholarships. And then, in all honesty, you've answered almost all the questions I had here already. You've spoken about the ideal time to start planning for your children's university education. We have spoken about the major things that we need to consider as parents. You have also spoken about how to receive scholarships, fundings, and the likes from Ivy League schools. So I would like you to repeat the website that you mentioned for scholarships. And then you said something. You said the importance of extracurricular activities. You've pretty much answered almost all the questions I had here. But there are some things that you said that I would like you to just dwell a little more on them. So you mentioned a website where parents could get scholarships and the rest of it all. Could you repeat that particular website again? I don't think a lot of our audience caught you.
Okay, so let's talk about the site. So number one site, there's what is called Khan Academy. KHAN Academy.
Okay, I've heard of that site before.
What I wanted to use this site for, number one, I wanted to use this site to prepare your children for WAEC, That's number one. For WAEC, that's number one. That site will cover your children up to the second year in the university, anywhere in the world. That's number one. Yes, Khan Academy.
So Khan Academy.
KHAN. Let me give you an insight. The owner of that site actually got 3 degrees from MIT.
Wow.
When he attended MIT, he said he paid $30,000, but he didn't pay anything because it was fully funded. But right now, that was in the 90s. So you can see how the cost of attendance grows. It grows every year by 5%. So it's not really in Nigeria. It's not from 30,000 to 75,000. So the second side, now. Yes, the second side that you need to. No, the highest school is Columbia and Co. It's about $91,000 or $92,000.
Wow.
Yes, but then that same Columbia, if you have a very strong profile, you can attend it for next to nothing. Next to nothing, yes. In fact, nothing. They will even give you extra jara on top. So how do we get those schools? So number one, Khan Academy. So let's talk about how to use Khan Academy. The way to use Khan Academy, please, no hurry, because this is very important to me. This Khan Academy will allow, so every holiday, especially from JSS 3, which is where the college applications start covering from JSS 3 to SS 3. Every holiday, you must be intentional. Your children must play a little, then they also must prepare for their work. Every holiday, whether it's a week holiday, whether it's 3 months of holiday, they must. That's number one. Number two, if you have schools in mind that you like your children to attend, go to the financial aid site of such schools and see how the kind of the profiles of students that they admit. That's number two. Number three, You can look up fast web, fast to run, fast to be fast, then web, web.com. Then you can look at scholarships.com. You can look at college data. Let me tell you why you should look at college data. College data. That college data will give you information about the graduation rates of different schools. It will tell you how many students graduate within 4 years, the percentage that graduate in 4 years and 6 years, so that it will give you an outlook into how much it's going to cost you if your children have to go to any of those schools. It will also show you the average scholarship that they give to students. It will also show you how percentage of the students that they were able to meet their needs 100%. So that way, it helps you to be able to plan your finances. You understand? It's very important. That fast web will give you external application, external scholarships. So you Google scholarship for international students, it will come up. You Google scholarship for Africans, it will come up. You'll be surprised, scholarship for Nigerians, it will come up.
Wow.
Yes, scholarship for Black women, it will come up. Scholarship offered by women in academics or women that want to study STEM, it will come up. You understand? So if you're, and some of you are Nigerians, but your children are American citizens, you even have more value. Scholarship for minority, your children are minority. You Google it, you get the scholarship. You understand? By the time you add everything up, you have a lot of money. And then, yes, no, this is real. I'm not making anything up. This is reality. This is reality. So you need to be. It's a lot of work, but it's a work that is worth it. But if you're not able to do the work, if you pay me, I do all the work. Yes, that's what I do. What I do is I'm a chemical engineer. I apply basic engineering principles to get value. That's what I do, and I apply that to every area of my life. That's what I do. I don't like to waste money. If I don't have to pay, I don't like to pay anyway. More so if I know that I don't have to pay. Why do I have to pay? So the other side that you should look at, another side, look for what you call Coursera.
Coursera. Okay.
Coursera. Why Coursera? Why like course? Coursera. The EDX. Echo Delta X-ray. EDX.
I got that. Yes, we got that.
Then also MIT.edu/open course where WARE. Why do I want you guys to look at this site? You should start exposing your children to those sites as early as JSS1. Even I had a primary 6 child that learned how to code from primary 6. So she was already admitted to no. Let me tell you more. Let me just encourage parents. Don't ever look down on your children. This girl was following the siblings to my house for SAT classes and for YA classes. So I gave her my iPad and I logged her into my Khan Academy account. She was able to code on her own. She learned coding on her own. So our children they need to leverage on technology. You don't have to pay if you are intentional as parents, you don't have to pay so much money to tutors. Your teachers are online. They are there. All those sites that I gave you, they are very, very useful. They can learn academics there. They can learn technology on them. They can learn how to write. For example, University of California, Berkeley has a very good writing course on EDX. You understand? So you can get so much value. So from both sides, you can help your children to boost their profile. So they're also very important. The entrance exams to universities in the US and Canada, let's talk about them and when we should start preparing for them.
For them, yes, ma.
Let me use my own personal example, and this is real. So when I used to go and work in the US, on projects in the US, all around the US. So I knew about the top schools in the US, and I knew what the requirements were. So even when my son was in primary 4 in Green Springs, primary 4 in Green Springs has what they call like a book club. You know, they will allow parents to buy books. I mean, that used to eat a lot of my money. You pardon me to say that, I'm just giving an example.
No problem.
No. I mean, don't worry. I mean, we are here. From today, you don't want to know. So they had the book club. So one of the books that my children bought was actually a CD on SAT. You won't believe it. The questions in SAT exams some of them are actually primary school questions.
Wow.
You understand? Yes, and they all gather together with their cousins, because usually, I mean, everybody stays with me. I'm the youngest in the family, so everybody stays with me. So together they were able to solve some of the questions. Primary 4. You understand? Then my first son was able to answer half of the maths question in SAT when he was in secondary school, in GSS 1.
Wow.
So why am I saying this to you? I'm not saying this, I'm not bragging. I just need to, I only need to tell you the things that work for me. So it's not out of place for your children to start prepping for this test from GSS 1 or even earlier than that, by making conscious effort to read. Let them watch Al Jazeera. Let them listen to CNN, feature stories, all those Al Jazeera, people and places. What do you call it? Different feature stories. Let them just sit down and watch them. When they watch them, they learn to structure how to speak. They learn to structure their writing. They learn to build up their stories. They just everything that has to be with reading. Because let me be honest with you, there's no way that when you read a book, when it's time for you to write your own, you'll be stealing from some of the phrases that you will have read or heard from other people. They'll come to bear. They come to bear. So imagine if you start up, like for me now, most of the things I can do now at 56, there are things that I started doing when I was very young. I can braid very well. I can take care. I can do it. I started raising children at the age of about 10. I'm not exaggerating. Please, you can check my family. You can go ask I can give you. You understand? They become part of it that when they need to. So let them naturally just build up life skills. Time management. Let them learn to manage their time on their own. Let them learn to interact with people. If you have 2 children, don't get involved in their squabbles. Let them learn to resolve their differences. Don't beat one for the other. As they do that, they'll learn to resolve issues, and then they build that up and they play it out into the larger society. You understand? Even as parents, respect people that work for you. People that work for you, respect them. People that work with you, respect them. When your children see you doing that, they will respect you as parents, they will respect them, and they will also take that into their workplace. You understand? They will. Teach them, let them do the house chores. I'm guilty, even though my children learned to do that on their own, and then when they went to school. Don't worry, they'll still be fine. Let them do house chores. Don't leave out the house chores to only the house help. Because in doing those things, in future, if they might end up running the best restaurant in the whole world. Just by little things that they pick up from you while hanging around in the kitchen. Just be very intentional about them. You understand? They will not die. You see, I've worked with young people. I've raised young people from when I was very young. None of them, nobody, even you as adults, people don't die from doing work. Listen, you see this, our brain is willing to take as much as we're willing to give to it. It's called neuroelasticity. Brain, elastic. The more you give to it, the more it's willing to take. So as parents, just be very intentional about your parents. And the SAT exam, please, is the most important component of this. I've talked about IEC, that's the GPA. SAT exam, let them start taking SAT from SS1. From SS1.
From SS1. Gotten that, ma.
SS1.
Okay, so that's from SS1. I heard that. Okay, thank you, ma. Okay, ma. So just to reiterate some of the things you said, some of the websites that you mentioned the importance of Khan Academy. Khan Academy helping your child with getting prepared for WAEC and the rest of the exams they need to write. So Khan Academy, you said something about Fast Web.
Yes,
fast web help with scholarships.
Yes.
You said Coursera EDX.
Yes. Yes.
You mentioned
EDX.
Yes. So you mentioned mit.edu/opencourseware.
Yes.
Okay. Then some of the other things that I picked personally in terms of you being planning for, as a parent, planning for your children as well. So you mentioned the importance of extracurricular activities. You said the importance of their academic performance. Try and make your children readers. Encourage your children to read.
Yes.
You mentioned that, and that's very insightful as well. And then you said the importance of volunteering. So even if you as a parent, you don't have your own business that they can work in, but encourage them to work for other people. That will also help them as well in their life skills. Okay, thank you so much, Ma. We'll immediately start attending to some of the live questions that we have here. So because our time is really fast spent, but it has been an enjoyable session. Very enjoyable one. Let me just go straight to the questions we have. All right, so I have a question here from, so some people are asking about the contact of Mrs. Iyabode. We'll share it as at the end of the session. We'll share it on the screen so that people that want to reach out to Mrs. Iyabode after can do that. Okay, so I have a question here. The person says, my question is for Mrs. Iyabode. This is an anonymous attendee. He says, what if you have a husband or a spouse that doesn't really believe in savings? How do you go about it? Thank you. So this person is saying, what if you have a spouse or a partner that doesn't really believe in saving and all of this? How do you still go about this? How do you still plan for your children's university education? How do you still take them to Ivy League schools?
You can. So let me use myself as an example. So my husband and I worked in the same organization. Both of us had individual saving plan.
Okay.
You understand? Then, but he also had joint one.
Okay.
You understand? So let's say my husband, he wasn't the one that is not I don't want to use the word irresponsible. Maybe he's not the type that likes to save. I know that now I have to bear the cost 100%. So let me tell you the way to bear the cost 100%. You see the way what I have done with my children, I did not have to pay school fees at all. I only pay school fees because because the school knows that I can afford it from my financial profile. Do you understand me? So the way to do it is this person should be focused on our children. You dip herself and see, don't give any excuse. I was working all over the world. You understand? And even when I was in Nigeria, I checked my children's homework every day. So let me tell you what I did. If I check their homework, I'll let them do their homework. If they miss any question, I'll give them extra work along the path of what they missed. And so let me tell you who I am. I was a chemical engineer in Exxon. So nobody should tell me, no, I'm busy and all that. I don't want to hear that. When my children were in Loyola, when my second son was in Loyola, all the MDs of banks, they will visit. All of us will be slapping our slippers all across Loyola. So there's no excuse. You understand? So this is what you should do, madam. Assume that you don't have a husband, that you are a single parent. So let me tell you the reason. When it's time for you to fill your child's application, you put that in it. You can call me later. I can guide you. At no cost. I'll tell you things that you should be doing. No cost.
Thank you so much, Ma. Okay, my next question is actually for my colleague here, Mr. Atumi. So there's a question from Evans, and he's asking, which education plans do Quantum Zenith have? And what are their advantages? How can these education plans help secure scholarship for overseas students?
Okay. Like I did mention during what I was speaking earlier, basically most of our clients, what we do for them is the fixed income fund. So it's a longer term fund so that we can match the duration of the obligation that we're talking about, speaking about sending children to school, to university in 10 years, 8 years, or longer. So basically, a fixed income fund works perfectly for that. And that's what most of our clients are actually interested in, putting money aside for the long term. And the feature of the long-term fixed income fund is the fact that you are investing in longer dated securities, which which naturally attracts higher yield. I mean, basically, it's the longer the tenor, the higher the yield you should be compensated for, which is why it makes more sense to invest in a longer-term income fund. Also, you could invest in an equity fund, which also makes sense in the sense that an equity fund gives you helps you to an extent to minimize the damage inflation is causing on your fund, because it's usually accepted as a good inflation hedge when you invest in equities. But the caveat has to be that you have to know what you're doing. You can't just invest in any random equities, which is why I encourage the parents that are not really sound in investment planning or finance should seek a financial expert. So they will help you in choosing highly profitable stocks of companies that give dividend, that historically give dividend, such that when you compound the dividends and then the capital appreciation that comes from holding these stocks for a long term, then you're able to really amass much. As for scholarships, that's not really my own bit to speak about. Maybe Mrs. Iyabo can help with that. I can only just speak to the fact of investing the various investment vehicles that are available and how that can help you towards the long-term plan of saving or investing for your children's education. As for scholarships, maybe Mrs. Iyabo can handle that part.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that. So my colleague here has told us some of the investment vehicles that we can invest in. So you mentioned fixed income instruments, you mentioned equities. If it's something you are very much interested in, these are conversations that we can have after this webinar. But yes, some of those things that we as parents should be looking at are investment vehicles like fixed income instruments, like equities. Okay, so I have other questions coming up as well. I have a question for Mrs. Iyabo. Okay, so someone is asking, the same Evans as well is asking, what is the qualifying exams into universities in Canada? What are the qualifying exams into universities in Canada? Mrs. Iyabode.
Okay, so the top schools in Canada require SAT with essay, which in Nigeria we call SAT 1. They also require subject SAT, which in Nigeria we call SAT 2. On the average, students are required to write 2 subjects in SAT 2, and the options for the subjects are Math Level 1, or Math Level 2. Math Level 2 has a bit of pre-calculus. So if you have a child that wants to study engineering or economics because of economics or sciences, you should encourage them to do further math. Even for universities in Nigeria, if they intend to study engineering, let them do further math. Then they will also require to write TOEFL or IELTS to test their English proficiency. But generally in Canada, all the schools require TOEFL or IELTS.
Okay, so TOEFL and IELTS.
Or IELTS.
Okay, and
IELTS.
CS,
TOEFL, yes, or IELTS.
Okay, ma. Thank you so much, ma. Okay, so we have another question here as well. So someone is saying, dear Mrs. Iyabo, please, how will a minority living in the USA in middle school benefit from this?
Excellent. So if I'm a minority,
do you want me to repeat that, or you got that?
No, I got the question.
Okay.
So what you should do, you should go and look for external scholarships. That's number 1. Then number 2, depending on your parents' financial profile, the federal government will give you We'll give you grants from Pell Grants that you don't have to pay back. That's number one. Then number two, you also benefit from the subsidized and non-subsidized loans, which usually is about $5,500. And then the interest rate on that loan is about 4% or thereabouts. So if you decide to take that loan, make sure you pay the interest because you're allowed to pay the principal after graduation. So that's number two. Your parents will also be allowed to take the federal loan. The interest rate is between 4 and 10 also. And then if all these ones will not cover your needs, you now have to take external loan. But guess what I would prefer? What you should do, I hate to take loan. So what you should do now is, depending on where you are in your educational journey, you should start searching for external loan. You might be applying to as many as 50 to 60 external loans, and some of them will require you writing essays about your leadership skills, about everything. But at the end of the day, by the time, if you are very intentional, you might be able to cover all your needs from the external loan. You will be able to. If you start doing it now, it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. You understand? So another important thing is that, so I don't know your full profile, but let's say I'm a minority in America and I've not gone far. I'll start paying attention to my academics, my extracurricular activities, and then I'll go and look for what these schools that are required. I'll look for schools that I match, I'll be good fit for, and start playing towards them. So I see the end, so I'm playing towards the beginning. So I have the end in sight. You understand? That's actually the best strategy. That strategy worked for me. To be very honest with you, I only had rice in mind for my son. It was my son that wanted to go to MIT. And MIT is the #1 school in the whole world. You understand? How come? And he could have attended it with or without me. With or without me. You understand? With or without me. So so the parent that asks that question, just be very intentional. Start helping your child to optimize his or her profile. Stop helping others to start optimizing his or her life. That's all you need to do. Everything I've talked today is optimization, making the best. Look at it. So let me give you an example. So that parents are not discouraged. Let me give you 2 examples. Let's say you have a child that goes to Loyola. Loyola has a lot of extracurricular activities, and very high academic profile. Then I have another child who is very, very smart, and this is really example now, that attended there was a particular school in Bariga. In Bariga, that school is very good, but most of the people will not go there. But the students, their curriculum is very strong. Another one in a satellite town, so they do another one in Attah. They do PTA. They do SAT. They do WAEC. They do everything that's available under the sun. Their children come out outstanding in WAEC. You understand? And so they're able to face all these schools. So when your schools, when they are sending your college profile to the universities, they can see there that your school does not allow you to do extracurricular activities. So you might not be penalized for that. For example, that boy that was in the class with my son in MIT, that I said the mom was said, you can Google him. You can Google him. His name is Phyllis Abel. His mom was selling akara as at the time he was going to MIT. Primary school, he sold plantain chips. He sold pure water. He ended up in MIT, fully funded. But when I looked at his profile, he used to participate in the competitions. Even the other students that went to Tufts, they participated. They dirtied their hands. They were really very involved. They made the best of the opportunities around them. A particular girl helped the mother to restructure her business. It was the basis for Harvard to give her full funding because Harvard was interested. So how did you do it? Because it showed a certain skill. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's the things that you should do.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Okay, so my next question is actually for Mr. Tumi, and we are rounding off because our time has been fast spent. For those asking for those sites again, on the chats in the chat room, we are panelists have put down all the sites there. So please just go to the chat room. You see all the sites that Mrs. Iyabode mentioned. The Khan Academy, the Coursera, every one of them are in the chat room. So just please go to the chat room. You'll be able to access all those sites from there. And people asking for the contact details for Mrs. Iyabode and for us as well. Those contact details will be shared at the end of the webinar. Now, my question is for you, Mr. Adetumi. So I have a question here from Mr. Charles, and he's asking, what happens to the child or children when a parent who takes an educational plan cannot complete it? So a parent has taken an education plan for maybe 10 years, but he can't complete it due to financial constraints. What happens to the education of these children?
Okay, that's a very wide question. And it's actually the reason you're taking an education insurance policy in the first place. So, I mean, like I said earlier, it's offered by life insurance companies, and the particulars of the particular product you're buying depends on what the insurance company is selling. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so there's a particular insurance company now that the type of education protection plan they're selling is such that if along the line you're unable to continue to pay your premiums, they're going to waive the remaining premiums up until maturity, such that at maturity, they are going to now make the funds available for the child's university education. So that's why I'm saying you have to be very careful what product you're buying. So you have to read the conditions. So is it such that you have to pay the premium until maturity, irrespective, or such that if something happens along the way, which is what makes it actually very interesting and makes it useful, is that you are insured against future loss of income, or maybe through disability or whatever the situation may be, such that maybe it's a 10-year plan, the actual sum is for 50 million, halfway you've paid up to 30 million, and then you can't pay any longer for whatever reason, disability, death, or any other unforeseen circumstance. So there are products that will, the insurance companies will kick in from that half year up to the end, such that by the maturity, they'll make that assured sum available for your child's education. So it's a question of knowing what you're buying, and all this will be factored into the premium you're going to be paying. Just to draw a parallel, if you had a car that you insure for a particular premium every year, or you pay premiums on every year, and then there's theft, there's a particular policy that could replace that car based on their short sum. So it's something similar. So if you have insured your child's education for a certain sum, and then down the line you're unable to keep paying premium, depending on how the product is structured, it could be such that the insurance companies will waive the remaining premiums, and then by maturity in 10 or 12 years, your child will still not be denied of the education you're trying to take the insurance for in the first place.
One thing is, the parent or the guardian should be very knowledgeable as to what exactly this policy is. What are the futures? What are we paying for? Because there are actually some insurance policies or plans that can cater for this kind of issue.
Some that it's at much once you stop paying the premium, whatever you accrued up to that is always going to be made available at maturity. So you have to like different insurance firms offering different products. So you have to, even the insurance firms can be offering different variants of the same product. So you need to know what you're signing in for, and that would what you're signing for will determine the premiums you're going to be paying and what benefits you're going to be entitled to. So the best thing is to sit down, and like I say again, if you have to get the financial experts, sit down with them, tell them what you want, then you can now source that role to them. So they go out shopping, and then they come back with different options available based on your demand or your request, and then what is available and how that meets your demand.
Meets your demand. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to me. Thank you for that. I think we should be rounding off any time from now. I think. Okay. Just want to look through any other question that we might have. Okay. So finally, Ma, just to go through everything you said, you have clearly made us know now that there's no excuse if there's any parent that wants to, explore the option of taking their children to Ivy League schools. You can actually get their fundings, their scholarships, their sponsorships that these parents can actually be involved in and can actually leverage on. So thank you for that. I just wanted to find out, right, even after using all of this, is there a probability that your child doesn't still get a scholarship? And if the child doesn't, what can a parent do? So you have explored these options, and then for one reason or the other, because the demand is also a lot. The way we are talking about this, there are so many other people thinking about the same thing. So what would a parent do if, after exploring all these options, you still cannot afford to get a scholarship?
Okay, I heard you. When it's time for your children to apply to universities, they'll be applying to 3 categories of school. You'll have what you call the rich schools. The rich schools are those private universities and public universities that are like the top in the US, that have all the money, that everybody, and because of the money, in fact, they are the most generous. They offer most of the money.
Okay.
So because of that, everybody is gravitating towards them. So you have to be mindful of that. And their acceptance rate is usually less than 10%, 10% or about. So you have to work out the statistics. So they are just options. So you will apply to some of them based on your own profile. Your profile will be, you try to check your profile against their expectations, against the profiles of the student that they've admitted in the past. So that's number one. You will also apply to the next set of schools that you call match schools. Match schools are the schools that your profile match. So what you do is that for those ones, you have to make sure that they meet your needs financially. They are within what you can afford. So it's important that you start talking to your parents about how much money they'll be able to afford to support you with annually. For 4 years that you spend in the US, or maybe 5 years if you decide to do a double major in BSc and MBA, or BSc and MSc and graduate in 5 years, depending on what options you are looking at. It's important to have this conversation. It's very, very important. Then you also now apply to other schools that we call safety schools. So these safety schools will be schools that you know that your own profile overwhelmed. But guess what? Some of those safety schools, if you are very strategic about them, they can actually put you in the same place in terms of job opportunities as the Ivy League schools. I'm not going to mention the names of schools. Yes. So that is why. So sometimes everybody will rush towards the Ivy Leagues. All of us will rush. Everybody's rushing. So we're all dreaming. So that's why they are called dream schools. You understand? So let's all dream. But it's good for everybody to dream, because you never just know. You understand? But as much as you are chasing the Ivy Leagues, you should also chase schools that can also place you, give you the same kind of work opportunities as the Ivy Leagues. So then the other thing that I need to add that's very important in terms of money is there are actually 2 ways to go to university in America for 4-year college. You can choose to go on the path of community college and university. So you spend 2 years community college and 2 years university. So after 2 years, you transfer to university. We have a student that we prepared for community college in 2018. This fall is attending Stanford and is fully funded. Yes, but remember, it went to, and because usually community colleges, we have a lot of examples. Community colleges are cheaper options. So typically, strong Nigerian students, they take advantage of that. Therefore, Canada, if you want your children to get a lot of scholarships in Canada, what you should do as parents is to allow them be in the system for 1 year before they apply to university. Because if they're already in the system, when schools come to visit for college fair, they will consider them, even though they're international students. Do you understand? So parents should be mindful of, because I know that a lot of parents are now, in fact, this season, I'm encouraging a lot of parents, you understand? So they should let them do 1 year and be in that system. So when it's time, so they will now benefit from scholarships. But if they are if they are going directly from Nigeria, they can only get funding and 1,000 to 2,000 for only 1 year, most of the time, not for 4 years.
Okay.
You understand? So what you can do is they can plan towards saving the money for the first year. Maybe that will cost you about 20 to about 30 or 35 Canadian dollars for 1 year. Then after that, you get some relief. But you also must be strategic about it. So everything requires planning. But what is important is that money is key in everything that you are doing. Because everything that we're doing is, we're only looking at options. We're only doing optional analysis. You understand? We're not certain. Just like COVID-19, we're not certain. Let me tell you, this year, the schools are not increasing their fees because of COVID. The schools are giving our students who are American citizens
they are giving them money. You understand? They are giving them money that they are not granted or that they are not refunding. They are extending some gifts also to international students. You understand? So, but what is important is that for me as a I usually plan the worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario.
No. Always something. I would rather buy a place that if it gets bored there and the place is immediately than buy a new one that cannot replace. So that's the only way I can explain it. That's the only way I can explain it. So parents should be telling us, say, if at the end of the day now they're able to go to side, they don't need the phone, then you need the money, you want the money your own way. But in your own way is where you need money. It's where you need money.
Okay, ma. Thank you so much, ma. I think we have come to the end of today's webinar. We have exhausted all the questions that we actually. Thank you for everyone that tuned in, everyone that logged in for this webinar. Thank you so much for being part of it anyways. Just to recap on everything she has said, she had mentioned a lot. She has mentioned a lot about the importance of, the academic aspect of it all when it comes to your children in terms of their planning. So that's when she mentioned the Khan Academy, instill the habit of reading, instill the habit of watching very, very informative channels on TV, not just leave them unattended to. So she mentioned another very important point, which was about volunteering. She said, even if you don't have your own business, you should encourage your children to volunteer in other places. There are some life skills that they learn there that help them even in getting these Ivy League schools. And she mentioned another important part about extracurricular activities. So the footballs, the basketballs, don't stop your children from engaging in these extracurricular activities. She mentioned quite a lot of websites. She mentioned FastWeb. She mentioned Coursera, she mentioned MIT.edu, she mentioned quite a number of them. So, and my colleague here also, he brought the investment part of things. He mentioned the part of the investment vehicles that we can invest in. He said a lot about equities, fixed income instruments, real estate. So those are questions, those are things that should start putting up stuff in our minds. Okay. And he said the importance of getting a financial advisor if you are completely new to this investment space. So these are things that should strike up conversations in our minds. On the screen right now, Mrs. Iyabode's profile is being shown. Please save the numbers if need be. Save our email, save the website, our Instagram, Twitter is also showing, her Facebook, LinkedIn. Please, let's just take advantage of what we are seeing on our screen. For anybody that wants to still talk to her after now, maybe there are some things you want to be clear about, please feel free to reach out to her. She's very accessible. Okay. I hope everybody has been able to capture that. I would also just want to briefly talk about some of the products and services we have here at Quantum Zenith Assets Management. So we have our equity, we have the Equity, Income, Ethical, and Money Market Fund. For the purpose of the things we are talking about, or the things we spoke about today, the Income Fund would really do well because the Income Fund is more long-tenured. So the Income Fund is a medium to long-term investment, and also the minimum investment is 25,000 naira. So it's something that even if you as a parent decides that, you know what, I haven't put everything into perspective, I want to be saving a 50,000 naira every month into the income fund, for instance, or I want to be saving 100,000 naira into the income fund, for instance, for my children's education. This is a very long-term investment that could help with that dream of taking your children to very quality universities. I hope we've been able to, give you a lot of insights and strategies to put in place as a parent or an upcoming parent on how to plan for your children's university education. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be sharing the link of this video and some of the slides that we have done, like this product snapshot and the contact address for Mrs. Iyabode. We'll be sharing that as well to your registered email. Thank you so much. Really appreciate. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.